Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christine Robinson, Mayor of West Grey. This is the West Grey Special Council meeting for February 16, 2021. I'm calling the meeting to order. We have all members of council present, with exception to Councillor Hergert. We do have a quorum. With that, this meeting is being recorded and will be available on the West Grey website, www.westgrey.com. Supervisor Hewlett, I wonder if you could just walk through some of the other features for this Zoom meeting.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor Robinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected at any time, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID 842-0320-6709. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hand on video to speak. Following a vote, the outcome of the vote will be confirmed verbally for the benefit of any guests who have joined us over the phone rather than using the online meeting software. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance throughout the meeting, you can send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, and I will attempt to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Hewlett. We are now on item number 2, moment of reflection. Members of council and those listening in, please take a quiet moment. Thank you. Item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of council, is there anything to declare? We are now on item number 4, which is purpose of meeting, appeal hearing for appeal to muzzle order. Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the first recommendation?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. The purpose of our meeting today is to hold an appeal hearing for a muzzle order issued in 2020. The first recommendation is that West Grey Council hereby appoints all members of council to the West Grey Appeal Committee for the purpose of hearing an appeal to muzzle order 01-2020.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I move the motion.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will second the motion.
Members of council, are there any questions with regard to this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate with a raised hand. And we could show that on screen with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. The motion is carried. Clerk Scharbeck, we also have a second motion or recommendation at hand. Could you please read that?
Through Your Worship, the second recommendation is that West Grey Council adjourns the special council meeting for the purpose of proceeding into an appeal hearing pursuant to West Grey Animal Control Bylaw number 87-2009 at 4:06 p.m. And I would add to sit as the appeal committee.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving the motion?
I move the motion.
Councillor Shea, are you seconding the motion?
Yes.
Are there any questions, members of council? Councillor Hutchinson, I see your hand.
No, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm not seeing any questions then. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All members of council, 6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. Thank you. We are now moving on to item 5, appeal hearing for appeal to muzzle order 01-2020. Clerk Scharbeck.
Sure, through Your Worship. I will call the meeting of the appeal committee to order at 4:07 p.m. And at this time, it is important for the committee to choose a chair to lead us through the hearing. And I call for nominations from the floor for the position of chair for the appeal committee. Councillor Shea?
It's Councillor Shea. I nominate Mayor Robinson to be the chair.
Okay, and I'll call a second time for nominations from the floor for the position of chair.
Clerk Scharabach?
And yes, Mayor Robinson?
I nominate Councillor Stephen Townsend for chair. So with that, I will respectfully say thank you. I declined the offer to be chair, and I wondered if Councillor Townsend would take the offer, the nomination.
Yes, I'll accept the nomination.
Okay, and I'll call a third and final time for nominations from the floor for the position of chair. And hearing none, the recommendation before the committee is that appeal committee member Townsend is hereby appointed to the position of committee chair for the purpose of presiding over this meeting. And I would need a mover and seconder, please.
So moved.
Okay, and second, Councillor Hamilton?
I second.
Okay, and all in favor? And I see everybody is in favor, motion carried. And Chair Townsend, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you very much. I just unmuted myself. The next order of business is, I have to flip between two documents, sorry, is the purpose of the meeting. And what I'd like to do first of all is introduce the committee members and the secretary, I believe. Will that be you, Clerk Scharabach?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So the committee members are, we'll start with Mayor Robinson, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Shea, Councillor Hutchinson, and Deputy Mayor Hutchinson as well. And also there are staff members here in support of that, which is CAO Laura Johnson and Director of the building, Carl Shiprack, and also staff helping us run the meeting, and also the bylaw enforcement officer, Jennifer Watson. Okay, so the appeal hearing is being held in accordance with the West Grey dog control bylaw number 87-2009 for the purpose hearing appeal to the muzzle order 01. Should that not be 2020 rather than 2021?
Yes, Chair Townsend, that is correct. It's muzzle order 2020. I apologize.
Thank you. My notes actually said 2021, so I just wanted to clarify that. And to also, next to advise the appellant of the order of business, noting that they shall be allowed 15 minutes to speak directly to the muzzle order that has been issued by the animal control officer, and only to that order. And they will also be allowed 5 minutes for a closing statement. So if I can ask the secretary to read the notice of appeal, followed by Mr. Chalmer, that would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
The muzzle order is included in your package and includes a large section of the bylaw. Did you want me to read that, Chair, or just the appeal to the muzzle order?
Just the appeal at this point, please.
Okay. The appeal is addressed, Dear Laura Johnston, which is our West Grey CAO. I'm writing to appeal a decision made by the Animal Control Officer to place a muzzle order served to us on December 10th, 2020 on our family pet, Berkeley. On October 25th, 2020, Berkeley's leash came loose from my hand as we were exiting the car parked in our driveway. She barked and ran across the road towards another dog. I immediately ran after Berkeley. However, unfortunately, Berkeley had bitten the dog. After the incident, we did notice that Berkeley had been favoring her one front paw. We could not see any mark on her paw, so unsure of what happened. Berkeley has never shown any aggression towards people or animals prior to the incident. Immediately after the incident, Berkeley was playing with our neighbor's dog without any issue. She never showed aggression towards the police officer that responded to the call, nor did she show any aggression towards the animal control officer. The officer did call us later that evening, updating us with a total we owed to the other dog owners, as their dog did require vet care. We immediately left the checks in the mailbox, as Cheryl, the animal control officer, stated she would pick up the check and deliver it. We followed up Cheryl a few times, and the check was picked up and delivered to the other dog owners on November 5th, 2020. I spoke with Carl Shiprack on October 27th and again on November 2nd, as we were seeking more clarification of what the muzzle order would entail. On November 2nd, he asked if we had ever heard of a complaint made in August regarding 2 dogs, one dark color and one light colored, at the corner of Queen and Barbara from a yellow brick house. There was no specifics noted other than this occurred at a yellow brick house, and on our corner, there are 2 yellow brick houses. We stated that we had not, and that we have never owned 2 dogs. And Carl said, okay, and we heard nothing, and we never heard anything further. On December 10th, we came home from work around 6 p.m. and found the muzzle order on our porch. In the muzzle order, there was a comment that was included that there was a complaint made on October 29th, 2020, that in August of 2020, 2 dogs left our property and attempted to attack different small breed dog. However, someone intervened before the dark colored dog could harm the small breed dog. In addition, it stated that they understand we are disputing the fact that we have 2 dogs. Berkeley is registered with West Grey, and we have never owned a second dog. We would like to know the process we need to take to prove we only own 1 dog. Berkeley has never been aggressive towards a person or dog, so we were very surprised when this incident occurred. We are very sorry this incident occurred and understand that the other dog owners were upset that their pet was harmed. We would like the opportunity to appeal the muzzle order. We have installed a fence to help give Berkeley freedom on our property. We have purchased a muzzle for Berkeley and put the Beware of Dogs sign up that is required. In addition, we have also hired a dog behavioralist to perform an assessment on Berkeley. The results will be provided during the hearing. If the hearing could occur in the very near future, it would be appreciated. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to read this appeal. If you require any additional information, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And sincerely, Adam and Natasha Chalmers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If there's no questions this time, I'd like to call on the municipal case presenter, Mr. Excuse me, Mr. Shipper, to make submissions in regards of this case.
Thank you, Chair Townsend and members of the committee. I will be presenting some evidence towards the decision to place the appeal order. You're going to hear from our Canine Control Officer, Ms. Roberts, and we'll go through her process and the decision that she made to place the order. And following that, we will also review the dog control bylaw and how we followed the process in that bylaw to make that order and what that order includes. So at this time, if our Canine Control Officer, Cheryl Roberts, is on the call, I believe she is, just confirm that she can hear me and that she can respond.
Can you hear me? Hello?
We can now. Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Thank you for attending today.
No problem.
Okay, so you've been listening. Basically, what I'd like to go through is we'll just start with your statement of facts and the call you received that day and the process and what you saw happening.
Okay, so on October 25th, 2020, I was contacted by Constable Myers from the West Grey Police Department advising that he had received a call regarding a dog-on-dog attack. So I attended the property of the Beers. When I arrived on the property, Alicia Beer was standing on the front porch holding her little dog, Jimmy, which is about a 9-pound gray, I'm going to say like a cockapoo type cross dog. Maybe some schnauzer in it, very small breed. Alicia Beer was wearing a pinky coral top holding Jimmy. And while she was holding Jimmy, there was a fairly large blood stain on the front of her top. I observed one definite bite wound on the back, and then another wound that appeared to be a bit oozy. On the table, on the porch of the Beers, was a blue and white coat that Alicia advised me that Jimmy, the dog, was wearing when he was attacked. There was also blood stains on the inside of the coat. When I was discussing with Alicia what happened, she said she was walking her dog, and the dog that lives at 720 Queen Street came running out, biting Jimmy, leaving him injured. Alicia was extremely distraught over this. Even when I was speaking with her, she was crying. She was convinced that this could have been a fatal attack at some point in time. They had already reached out to a veterinarian and had an appointment shortly after I intended to take Jimmy into the vet.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Roberts. So at any time did you have a chance to speak with the owner of the accused dog? And just to clarify, the owner, that dog's name was Berkeley, is that correct?
The attacking dog is Berkeley, and the victim dog is Jimmy. And Alicia, in her state, when I was speaking with her, said how the dog ran across the road at her and her little dog, Jimmy.
Okay. And that day that you were there investigating, did you have a chance to speak with the owner of Berkeley?
Yep, I attended the property of the owner of Berkeley, had a very reasonable conversation. The owner did not deny or dispute the events that took place, that his dog did attack, and was willing to pay the veterinary bills.
Okay, just to confirm, the dog owner's name at that time was Adam Chalmers, is that correct?
Yep, correct.
And that's who you spoke to that day?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're talking with Mr. Chalmers, you stated that he agreed to pay the vet bills. He didn't deny the accusations, and in fact, in his request for appeal, he did restate that he agreed to pay those fees, and that his dog was on a leash, but the leash came loose from his hand and the dog ran across the road, and he admitted to the facts that his dog bit the other dog. On that
Correct.
day or any time soon after that, did he talk about any injuries to his dog?
No.
Berkeley?
No.
That
was not brought to my attention.
Okay, so there was no injuries to his dog, and he didn't provide you with any documentation or any vet reports or of any type that there was any injuries to his dog. It was only the only vet report you saw was for Jimmy.
Correct.
Okay. We have some photographs that are part of the evidence. I believe you spoke to some of those pictures already, but we'll just go through them one at a time here just to make sure everybody's aware of what. So we have photo one there. Do you have a copy of those photos?
Yes, I do.
Cheryl? Sorry.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So picture one here looks like a dog being held by a person wearing a pink shirt with some blood on the shirt. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you just describe?
I took that photo. That is Alicia Beer holding Jimmy. In the photo, you can see the blood stain that's still fresh, and that would be from her holding Jimmy. And then in the picture of the body of the dog, sort of in the center, you can see the matted fur with the blood in the photo.
Okay. So that is a picture of Jimmy
that I took on the front porch of the beer residence.
Okay. And there was an additional photo of what looks like a blue dog sweater?
Yep, that was the sweater that I was advised he was wearing at the time of the attack. And you can see the blood stains on the knitted sweater.
Okay, so at the time, at the day you were attended the incident, you spoke with Mrs. Beer, but after that you had a chance to take a formal statement. Can you just go through her formal statement and just talk about that?
Yes, I took the formal statement from Alicia. There is a language barrier, so it may be difficult to read. The statement from Alicia was very consistent with the first conversation I had with her. Would you like me to read the statement or?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you read it? Yeah.
Okay. So I did take it over the phone because of COVID and the age and the Beer's fragile health. And I asked her, what side of the road were you on? I was on the other side. The dog crossed the street. I'm afraid of that dog. Not the first time. The dog ran from him and crossed the street. The first time he no-touched Jimmy. How did the dog come at you? He run. That one day he ran on the road. A car had to stop so it didn't hit the dog. And at that point, she was referring to the incident that had just taken place on October 25th. How did the dog bite Jimmy? Jimmy go like this, a little ball, and grabbed him. I screamed. I didn't know what to do. He came and got his dog. He didn't say nothing, just turned his back. I said to lady in white car to call 911. The lady said to go home. No one do nothing. I came home and called 911. When I picked Jimmy up, he was bleeding. I carry him home. It was very difficult to understand Alicia during this point because she was crying quite hard going over the events. I said, how much did it cost at the vet? She said, I don't remember. I'm 84. I don't remember when I have my glasses on, but I remember this day. And then she repeated louder, I remember this day. I thought I lose him. So her statement is very consistent with my first visit to the Beers on October 25th.
Okay, thank you. So we also received a copy of the veterinary report from the veterinarian that reviewed Jimmy. Can you just, you don't have to read it out in full or just give some brief information on what you received, what information you received from that report?
Okay, so the information I received, Jimmy was provided with a long-acting injectable antibiotic that provides coverage for 14 days. He was also provided with something called Medicam, which is a common pain management drug used in dogs. In the vet report, I noted that there was a blurb that had been written by the vet clinic that Alicia was walking Jimmy on leash. A dog off leash came across the road, attacked Jimmy. That's when they called into emergency services. And they elected to be seen on an emergency service basis. Also in the vet report, it goes over Jimmy's general health. It does state in here that Jimmy has mobile teeth and some periodontal disease. His mucous membranes were good. He was panting comfortably. There was no murmur or anything along that lines. Also, there's a description from Dr. Curtin that there were 2 puncture wounds into the skin on the back, 1 puncture wound and 1 deeper impression on left side ventral chest. There was no emphysema apparent. The veterinarian suspected some deeper damage to the sub-Q, and there were small bits of fat that were coming out of the puncture wounds, but they did not suspect any broken bones. His heart and lungs sounded good, but there was bruising that was starting to surface. And she noted the pain score as a 7 out of 10.
Okay, and in your experience, that would be consistent with what you saw the day of the attack?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. So after that incident, after you received all the information, you reviewed the West Grey dog control bylaw, and as part of that, I guess just provide a brief discussion or some brief information on why you decided to go with the muzzle order and what led up to that.
Okay, so I had been in contact with you, Carl, regarding this incident, and we discussed options, despite the fact that Mr. Chalmers appeared to be quite cooperative when I was speaking with him. He asked questions. He took responsibility for the event. He didn't deny it happening. He asked questions about muzzling, how to obtain a muzzle. We did go through the process of the options, whether through the bylaw or under the Dog Owners Liability Act. So we decided to go through the bylaw. It's only within the community of West Grey. It's not province-wide. Mr. Chalmers was not charged with the dog running at large. He had accepted all the responsibilities and seemed willing to move forward with the recommendation or the order under the bylaw. Okay.
And so under our dog control bylaw, just to confirm, it is defined running at large. And I'm not sure if you have a copy of the bylaw in front of you, Ms. Roberts, or if you want me to read it. Do you have a copy there?
Yes, I believe I do. Running at large, which is O under the definitions. Sorry, I'm just having difficult. Okay, running at large shall mean any dog found in any place other than the premise of the owner and not under control of any person over the age of 16 years.
Okay, so I think the facts are fairly clear in your mind, as well as the owner's admission that the dog was running at large. He wasn't under control. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay. So then part 4 of that bylaw, control of dogs. So 4A, if you want to read that.
Yep. 4A, no person who owns, harbors, or possesses any dog shall allow the dog to run at large within the municipality or trespass on private property, even when on a leash.
Okay. So part 6 of the same bylaw. So 6A, if you want to read 6A.
Yep. Where the officer is satisfied on the balance of probabilities and in the absence of any mitigating factors that a dog has bitten a person or animal, the officer may issue a muzzle order to the owner of the dog.
Okay, so after reviewing the evidence and having a conversation with myself and reviewing the bylaw, what made you decide to place the muzzle order in this situation?
I felt with the cooperation of Mr. Chalmers admitting to the incident, not disputing it, voluntarily paying for everything. He was doing, like, paying for all the vet costs. he was doing everything we would ask for in a court of law under the Dog Owners Liability Act. Commonly, when people are doing what we ask, I don't feel it's necessary that we go above and beyond in the court procedure. This seemed to be an adequate middle of the road way to go.
Okay. And just to confirm, so everybody is on the same page, when you put that muzzle order, what does that require the dog owner to do? I believe 6E under part 6 dictates that, if you want to read that for everybody.
So notwithstanding any other section of this bylaw, when a muzzle order has been served, the owner of the dog shall not permit the dog to be off the premise of the owner unless it is properly leashed and muzzled, and ensure that the dog does not bite, chase, or attack a person or domestic animal on any property, including that of the owner, and either tether the dog or chain capable of restraining the dog or confining it within a fenced yard capable of preventing the dog from escaping, and put the dog under control of a person at least 16 years of age when the dog is not on the owner's premise, and notify the officer within 5 days of transfer if the dog is transferred to a new location or the ownership of the dog is transferred to another person, and not contravene any other condition imposed in the muzzle order, and shall within 7 days purchase a dangerous dog warning sign and place it in a conspicuous place at the entrance to the owner's premises, indicating the presence of a dog, and inform the officer of the same.
Okay, and just to be clear, under 6E VI, you can impose other conditions on the muzzle order. Did you place any other additional conditions on the muzzle order?
No.
No, okay.
No,
there were no additional conditions. Yeah.
Sorry?
And we received a picture of the warning sign placed in the window, which he complied with. Mm-hmm. And he's built a fence or had a fence on his property that he can contain the dog on his own property, meeting that requirement?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have as part of our statements. Is there anything that you just wanted to add in, Cheryl, at the end, or did we cover everything?
I think we've pretty much covered everything. The muzzle the muzzle part of it is just to ensure that if the dog does happen to escape him again, that there's not going to be a reoccurrence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That's all we have.
Thank you, CBO Shipwreck. Appreciate that. And Ms. Roberts as well. At this time, I advise the committee that they can ask questions of either CBO Shipwreck or Ms. Roberts. So does anyone wish to ask a question? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, just a question to Ms. Roberts. You mentioned, and Ms. Shipwreck also mentioned, that there's an alternate to the muzzle orders. I just wonder, what are other restrictions? You didn't really clarify that, but other than the muzzle order, what other restrictions could be placed on this dog at this time or at another time?
I mean, we can put other conditions on if we felt it necessary, but I don't feel that it would be necessary to put anything else on. I'm sure if we needed to, we could, under the bylaw, if it was necessary, that the dog couldn't absolutely leave the property unless it was for veterinary care. Those would be some of the things that we could ask for. or look at, but I don't think that's reasonable.
Right. And just to go further with that, I guess if this dog happened to bite a person, then there's different circumstances and different consequences, correct?
Correct. So if we look at it on a sliding scale, when I proceed in court, like in the provincial offences court in the POA, we can ask for euthanasia of an animal, and we can ask for that whether it bites a person or a domestic animal. So we're not seeking anything like that. We're just looking for the muzzle.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Hutchinson?
No, not this time.
Yep. Thank you. I should say Member Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question for Ms. Roberts. In the muzzle order that was delivered to the Chalmers, there's mention of a second complaint involving 2 dogs. Can you describe to the committee if that had an impact on your decision for the muzzle order? Thank you.
No, that complaint came in actually the day I was picking up the check, which I believe was November 6th. I was in front of the Chalmers residence when that call came in and spoke with the woman, and she was very adamant describing the Chalmers property, that it was theirs. Unfortunately, she was not forthcoming with her personal information, but she was very adamant that it was that property.
Anything further? Member Hamilton?
No. Well, thank you. So just seeking clarity, the complaint for which you weren't able to gather, it sounds like you weren't able to gather the details that you needed to pursue it. So does that complaint have any bearing on the decision for the muzzle order?
No, it was put in there as a courtesy that it had been brought to my attention after the fact.
Okay.
And that it had no bearing on the muzzle order.
Thank you.
No matter, like, when there is a dog on dog attack or dog on person attack, there'd be a muzzle order, whether it would be via the bylaw or the Dog Owners Liability Act.
Okay. Thank you. I'm satisfied with that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Hamilton. Anyone else have any questions of Ms. Roberts or CBO Shiprack? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to call on Mr. Chalmers and ask him to present his statement as well as any supporting documentation. Mr. Chalmers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
So I provided my statement as well as other documentation that we gathered after the fact. Would you like me to read my statement?
If you wish, yes.
Okay.
And I should remind you, you have 15 minutes to present both your statement and your documentation. Thank you.
All right, so I'll just summarize my statement. So on October 25th, I was bringing Berkeley into the house from the car. While there was a small dog on the other side named Jimmy, Berkeley did pull and came loose from my hand and did run across the road, and the incident did occur. We're not disputing that. The incident did not last very long, and I was able to gain control over Berkeley in a quick matter of time. And I did apologize to the owner that it did occur. After she left the other side of the road, her husband did come up yelling numerous times that he was going to kill both myself and Berkeley, to the point where he walked behind the car and slammed his fists on to the trunk of my car. And he even proceeded to yell that he was going to kill both Berkeley and I, or in front of the police officer that did attend to our property. When the police officer was there, Berkeley did not show any aggression towards the officer, and Alicia, Jimmy, and Tony were across the street, and Berkeley had no interest whatsoever with that at all, and it was about the same distance from when the incident did occur the first time. When Cheryl did come to the house, she discussed to me that they were taking their dog to the vet as there was signs of fresh blood. When then at that time, I did say that we would cover the vet costs. Shortly thereafter, she had called and informed me that the vet bill was approximately $352. At that time, I did write a check and place it in the mailbox. Cheryl stated that they did have to take the dog back tomorrow to the vet and would let me know if there was any further charges. Cheryl also stated that she would pick up the check the next day, being the 26th, as they were she was going to act as the mediator between myself and them due to the events that occurred during the day. So we got some letters of reference from other dog owners in the area. The first one was from Linda Slade Watcham. It states that, please be advised that I live in Newstead and have 2 dogs, which I walk daily. One is a 7-year-old female German Shepherd. The other is a 3-year-old male Shih Tzu Terrier cross. The times that my dogs have met up with Berkeley, I can attest that she has never displayed any aggression towards either one of them. The next one is from Kayla and Stuart Evans. We have known the Chalmers and Berkeley now for almost 2 years. In that time, Adam and Natasha have proven to be excellent and responsible pet owners. We own 2 dogs of our own. One is still under a year. Our dogs have socialized quite regularly in the last 2 years, and there's been no cause of concern in regards to Berkeley's temperament or interactions with people or with dogs. Our adult dog and Berkeley get along from the very beginning. Berkeley seems to have been well socialized. She is responsive to social signals and canine body language. With most play, Berkeley tends to take on the more submissive and passive role. Even when our younger dog was a small puppy, Berkeley was appropriately playful while being very gentle. Our dogs have interacted with Berkeley in multiple different locations. She has never shown signs of possessive, territorial, or predatory aggression. All interactions between our dogs and Berkeley have been positive. We have also witnessed Berkeley's interactions with dogs who are not her own. She shows the same sweet and playful demeanor. At no point in time have we ever witnessed behaviors to suggest that Berkeley is aggressive towards dogs or humans in any way. The next letter is from Kayla and Josh Guinia. I am writing in regard to Berkeley and the concerns regarding her. Myself and my husband have no concerns about Berkeley. We have a 13-month-old daughter and a dog that we have around Berkeley all the time. Our dog and Berkeley get along very well and spend most of their time running around with one another. Berkeley also shows a lot of affections towards our daughter, and Berkeley also allows our daughter to play with her well, with not having any concerns about her daughter's safety when she is around Berkeley. The next one is from Deb Forster. I wish to advise that when I take my dog Ozzy for a walk and we meet with Berkeley, the dogs are excited to see each other. They meet, play with each other without any incidents, and I have not had any problems with Berkeley. The next one is Kelly Henning. I have lived beside the Chalmers since 2016, and they have adopted their dog, Berkeley, in June 2018. I have a dog named Tucker, who Berkeley has interacted with on numerous occasions without any issues or incidents. I can attest that the Chalmers have only ever owned one dog, Berkeley. Since I have lived beside them, I have never witnessed Berkeley to be aggressive or have any incidents with any dogs or humans. I have also seen the Chalmers to be responsible dog owners, and Berkeley is well taken care of. The next one is from Lori Zimmerman. My name is Lori Zimmerman. I reside on Queen Street. I live directly across the street from Adam and Natasha Chalmers, who reside at Queen Street. I can say with 100% certainty that Mr. and Mrs. Chalmers have only ever owned one dog by the name of Berkeley the entire time of home ownership. They purchased the home in 2015. They adopted Berkeley in June of 2018. The next one is the other letters are there, the other letters are there for your perusal. We have also hired a dog behavioralist. Her name is Joan. Her company is Fangs But No Fangs. Her statement is in here, but she is also in attendance, and I'd like her to speak on behalf of that document, if that is okay, Chair.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for having me. Thank you for hearing my statement. I'm happy also to take questions from the council as they may arise. As you can read, you've heard a lot of people reading, so I'm not going to redo that for you. As you can see in the report and read, it is my recommendation that muzzle order be lifted with certain conditions to be met by the owners. There are a number of factors that are based this decision. Among them, and I've been doing this for more than 2 decades as my own practice and extensive experience with muzzle order and dangerous dog legislation. So there are a number of factors that we look at, and one of the first is already been attested to by Cheryl, by Ms. Roberts, the officer, which is, are the owners likely to comply? Are they acting responsibly? Are they taking responsibility for the incident and acting in a way to ensure future safety? And across the board, this has been shown to be so. In fact, when the fence was erected, as much as I have that as part of my requirements for lifting the muzzle order, that was done prior to my meeting with them. So that was something of their own volition that they invested financially to ensure the public safety and to ensure that the unfortunate incident would not happen again. Another important factor to consider is, as much as we refer to the at-large, there is no demonstration of a pattern of behavior here, a pattern of aggression, nor is there a demonstration of a pattern of repeatedly having the dog at large or flouting any type of the bylaw. That the incident in question, and it does not seem to be any dispute from the victim nor anybody else, was that the leash slipped by accident. And thus, in that particular moment, this was sort of a one-off where the dog got away from the owner. Finally, another consideration, as you can see, it's called the Dunbar bite scale. What we look at in situations like this, especially when you have a significant size difference, is the damage that was done, the physical, obviously the mental harm, and that's not in any way to undermine that. I'm usually on the other side of this, and I find it frustrating that we do tend to sort of say, well, they're fine. Well, they're not. And that was traumatic for the owner. It was traumatic for the dog. But it is important to note that as a canine behaviorist, the bite that you had, the puncture, there were two that we know of. And in both cases, there's no evidence that there was surgery required. There's no evidence that there were secondary or tertiary treatment required. As a dog owner, to put it in sort of layperson's language, the vet cleaned up the wounds and he put some antibiotic on them and sent them home with sort of Tylenol. That Medicam is sort of like a Tylenol, if you will, for dogs, that same concept. It's a pain reliever. To contrast this, I've had the case that I'm fighting right now where they wouldn't muzzle But I've had cases, if it was a predatory attack or an attack that was done with intent, there would have been much more significant damage. You would have seen a much deeper wound, right, on the grab. And there's no evidence that's been presented to show that the little dog was shaken, picked up, or that any people were harmed reaching in. Therefore, it seems to imply that once they were interrupted, there was no further issue. There was no further aggression. The dog did not increase its intensity. The dog did not try and restart the aggression, nor is there any evidence of lingering redirected aggression towards people, towards other animals. And in fact, when the officers came, the dog was on a porch with another dog, and there was no evidence of globalized aggression. So at this time, my recommendation, as you could read from the sheets in front of you, and I will quickly just pull up the word for word. My memory is not that good. Again, insofar as he will meet the stipulation of duty of care to the community, it was my recommendation that the muzzle order be lifted as long as the owners comply with the five rules that I've given, which is to maintain their fencing, to ensure that the dog is securely fastened in the vehicle, never loose, that the dog is not taken out of a vehicle in the driveway where the incident occurred, that the dog is to be cared for by people 18 years of older outside or to have control, and that she is on the leash outside, securely clipped at all times, that she is not to be at large. I'm happy to answer any specific questions as to this incident. I do also want to clarify, there does sometimes seem to be some hyperbole or misunderstanding, perhaps, because I'm a science-based practice. There is no scientific evidence that would indicate that because you have had this one incident, there's any increased likelihood of the dog now aggressing towards people or increasing aggression. Like I say, and I'm happy now to take, if the council has questions regarding behavior or my findings.
Okay, Mr. Chalmers, do you have anything else to add?
Not at this time, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to advise the committee this is the appropriate time to ask questions of Mr. Chalmers or Ms. Weston, as she's indicated she's open to that. Does anyone have any questions for either party? Okay, seeing none. Oh, sorry, Member Hutchison.
Yeah, just one question. That was my concern is if since this dog has bitten once, whether this would be start to be a recurring pattern. But according to our dog behaviorist, that isn't necessarily the case. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. Yes, that's absolutely correct. And it's the reality is that the social interaction with dogs are not entirely dissimilar to that of humans. So it does not necessarily have any future bearing because the behavior itself is contextually based. So in other words, if I were to suddenly run up behind you at night when it was dark and grab you by the arm and you hit me, that doesn't necessarily allow me to then make the conjecture that you must not like women or that you are a danger to women in all circumstances. And this is sort of a similar incident. What you had is a dog at the time the leash dropped, where you had everybody was sort of in a really sort of an aroused state, that all the adrenaline was flowing, they were running over there. And in that moment, it's almost the thing sort of spiraled a bit, but there is no science, there was no research that would support any indication that the dog is now more or less likely to bite or to have another such incident. This is really nothing more sort of than just sort of the confluence of the two toddlers running at each other, and all of a sudden the spiraling of emotions and everything at that moment seems like it got away. I would also just very quickly add that that I witnessed the dog walking by smaller dogs, and I actually witnessed a dog with a smaller dog barking at her on that time, and I was well behind them because that was one of the things I wanted to see. And at no time, again, because I'm very cognizant of that, I have small dogs, and I tend to be a bit overprotective of them because God bless them, they're idiots. So I do try and take care of them, but at no time did I see any concerning body language or response.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Madam Clerk right now. I see your hand up as well.
Through you, Chair, just wanted to note that we do need to stick focused on just the facts at hand and the appeal to the muzzle order and the muzzle order itself. So it's fairly tight focus that it's difficult to consider comments when the event wasn't witnessed.
Thank you very much.
That was my only comment.
Clarification. Yep. CBO Shipwreck, I saw your hand up. Do you still have a question?
Yes, I'm not sure if it's appropriate that if I'm permitted to ask questions of Miss Weston.
Yeah, Madam Secretary, if you can comment. Procedurally?
Procedurally, it is appropriate for Mr. Shipwreck to be able to ask questions. I'm just concerned that I'm not sure what role Ms. Weston is playing in the procedure, or if she's representing the dog owner, Mr. Chalmers, in the proceedings. But certainly it's appropriate time for Mr. Shipwreck to ask questions of either party.
I'm happy to clarify on both points.
Okay, that's okay. CBO Shepard, please ask your question.
Yes, and that's what was one of my questions as well. I just wanted to clarify that, just to confirm, Ms. Weston, you were hired by Mr. Chalmers to work on his behalf?
Yeah, and to answer that, this is similar to when I do testimony in other cases. I was hired by the Chalmers to do an assessment of the dog. And I want to be very, very clear, because of my role in the community, because of my my reputation, my business. This is again, my findings are based on history and science. From what we know of this incident, the specific details of the incident do warrant the opportunity to have the muzzle order lifted. And that's based upon my expertise. It's not relevant to the client. I have certainly had other cases where I have said to them, I will be supporting the findings of the council, and I recommend maintaining a muzzle order. So my job was to do an assessment for them. And in the assessment, these were the key points.
Okay, but I just wanted to clarify as well that you're basing this, your statements on information obtained from Mr. Chalmers. Did you discuss the incident with any other witnesses of the situation, with Mrs. Beers or Mr. Beers or the police officer or anybody else who witnessed the attack?
I did not. My information is based on all documentation provided and statements that were provided to me regarding the incident from Mr. Chalmers. They are also based on my assessment procedure and on my eyewitness procedure during the walk with them as well. And I've also reviewed the PDF package, which also, again, confirms my assessment, as well as the statement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And as noted, Ms. Weston was hired by the appellant, and we've never sort of vetted her to check out her qualifications, but we do appreciate your input, and we do have your documentation that you provided. At this point, I would like to ask CBO Shipwreck if you would like to do your closing statements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make it brief. I think the evidence in this case are pretty clear. There's no dispute over the situation. Mr. Chalmers didn't have control of the dog. The dog attacked another dog. There was some significant wounds. We have documentation proving that. Both parties have identified the dog. There was no dispute on who, what dog attacked what dog. There's no dispute over that. So we know what happened. And in this case, it's pretty clear, I think, that some type of action was required. It was determined through our canine control officer that the muzzle order was in her experience, was the best way to move forward. It's the best way to protect the municipality from liability. It's the best way, to be honest, to protect protect Berkeley the dog. Unfortunately, we can all make our best guess on whether this would happen again a second time or not. But in reality, we have no idea whether it's a bad situation again or something else happens. But it's very possible that if something does happen again, whether it's a person or a dog, in that case, the municipality would be, likely seeking a destruction order. If we do have 2 confirmed attacks by a dog, that's likely where we're going next. And nobody wants that. Was definitely part of our discussions when we decided on the order. It was part of the discussions that we had with Mr. Chalmers that, nobody wants to move to that next step. And obviously nobody wants to be held responsible through the municipality, if something did happen again in the future, if we did decide to remove the muzzle order. It's my recommendation that we keep the muzzle order in full, intact, and that the committee upholds that. Thank you.
Thank you, CBO Shiprack. Mr. Chalmers, you will also have the same 5 minutes to do your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention that this was Berkeley's first incident that has occurred, and that we are sorry that it did actually happen. What we are saying that we will do is to ensure that we follow the 5 recommendations that were set out by Joan. That the fence is maintained, that Berkeley is that we will fasten Berkeley in the car before opening the garage door with a seatbelt, that only somebody that is over the age of 18 will walk Berkeley, and that when we are walking Berkeley, that she is clipped to a harness, collar, or the head halter. And once COVID restrictions have been lifted, we are going to be putting Berkeley into more classes, behavioral classes, as well as just seeking more training. So I'd like to thank you for your time during this appeal hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chalmers. I'd just like to remind the committee that the bylaw does provide provisions for making a decision. I'm just going to read that per section 6. It says, at the conclusion of a hearing, the appeal committee shall, as soon as possible, make a decision. We shall set out the findings of fact made by the appeal committee and its decision. Secondly, the appeal committee may uphold the muzzle order as issued by the officer, exempt the owner in whole or in part from the requirements under the muzzle order, and subject to any conditions the appeal committee deems appropriate. And thirdly, a decision by the appeal committee is final and binding. The owner of the dog is not entitled to a further hearing on the matter. So again, advise the committee there are 3 options in relation to the notice of appeal. You can uphold the muzzle order. You can exempt the owner in whole from the requirements of the order, exempt the owner in part from the requirements of the order with or without further conditions. So how would the committee like to proceed? Member Doug Hutchison?
I think it's important that we follow through and comply with our staff recommendation. I know, I think the positive thing of this is that the dog still can be walked with a muzzle. It can run freely in its yard with a fence. So there are some positive things out there, but I do have concerns with a dog that has bitten and potentially, if it was to get loose again or to be out walking with its, even on a leash and comes across another dog, there's potential for another bite. And then we're into a situation where we have to go to the next level. So I think, it's unfortunate that this happens. Unfortunately, that they're going to have to muzzle when off property, but at least the dog still has some freedoms. So I would suggest that we follow through with the recommendations of our staff.
So is that a motion, Member
Yes.
Hutchison?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we should be very specific as we've been advised in our motion. So I wonder, with the help of Secretary Sherbrooke, if we could develop that motion, please. You need to unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Thank you.
Okay.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. The motion, I'm just looking at some options here, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, that the appeal committee finds that we need to make a statement of fact in that. And would it be fair to say that the appeal committee finds that or concurs with, that the committee concurs with the statement of facts by the animal, as presented by the animal control officer?
Member Hutchinson, are you okay with that?
Yes, that would be fine.
And those are set out in her statement. And the second part of the motion is that and that muzzle order 01-2020 is hereby upheld by the committee.
Member Hutchinson, are you okay with that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Member Hamilton?
Member Hamilton, I'll second that.
Okay, any questions or comments? No? Okay, then I'll,
sorry, I did have one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Townsend, I did have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So just to clarify, besides the muzzle order, there were other restrictions. I was just trying to find them here. Other restrictions like the fencing and the leashing and so on, right? That was part of the recommendation?
Yes, I believe it was.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, so somewhere in the order, it'd be in the order, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Secretary Sherbrooke, I'm assuming by saying that we're upholding the order, all those are subsequently included?
That's right, Chair Townsend. So the order as issued by the animal control officer includes the muzzle being off property and the bylaw, all the sections of the bylaw must be complied with. So it must be on a leash and under control. And
right. I see it's section 6A.
Yeah, all the details of the order complied with.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Member Hutchison?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I'll call the vote, please. All those in favor of the motion as read, please raise your hand. Okay, 5 members of the committee are in favor. All those opposed? one person opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank everyone for their attendance and participation. And the notice of motion will be provided to the appellant by a registered mail or personal delivery within 2 weeks of this hearing. And I'd like to ask, is there a motion for adjournment at this time? Member Robinson, you move the motion. And Member Shea, do you second the motion?
Yes, I second the motion.
Thank you very much. All in favor? All 6 members have voted in favor. So the motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
And through you, Your Worship, we're now back into our special council meeting, and the only thing left on our agenda is adjournment for that as well.
Thank you very much. So we're looking at item 6, which is adjournment. Clerk Sharbeck, could you please read the adjournment motion at hand? Oh, Clerk Sharbeck, your audio needs to be turned on, please.
Thank you. Sorry. The recommendation is that we do now adjourn the special council meeting at 5:14 p.m. to meet again at 6 p.m. Today, February 16th, for our regular council meeting.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving the motion?
This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Yes, I will move the motion.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Yes, Councillor Hutchinson seconds the motion.
All those in favor, please indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. We do stand adjourned. This motion is carried. Thank you.